Hello everyone, my name is Guilherme, I am a game developer, and in this video I'd like to talk about one of the most underhated, underlooked, most ignored topics when it comes to game engine development. What do you mean, Guilherme? When people also want to create a game engine, people think about, oh my god, I'll create a 3D badass and advanced rendering, I want to create a physically based rendering, I want to create realistic materials, realistic physics, or I want to create a badass 2D engine, I want to create animations and so on. People think about many things, but there's one thing that people don't think. And this stuff, this single topic, may be harder than you think it is to master, to create it right and properly. And yes, if you are following my channel, I do have, this is a devlog of my game engine. So I will show you this engine, but this video, in this video, I will not only show the engine, but I really want to help you with user interface. I will tell you why it's so hard and why people ignore that, why people think in everything else but don't think in user interface. Okay, but first, before I go to the video and start showing you what I did in my engine, I have a small announcement to do. Right now, as you may see, I'm starting to create more content in English, more content here in this channel. Maybe you know me from Uniday Studio, that is my company here in Brazil that I do Portuguese content, of course, but I decided to start doing even more often English content, and I opened a Discord server. Yes, many people asked me to open a Discord server, so I will leave the link in the description. I just opened it. Let me show you a screenshot real quick. So I opened the Discord server. It's called Uniday Studio International because, well, we will talk in English, we will speak in English there. So feel free to join if you want to create games, if you want to meet new people, if you want to share your stuff, or share your game engine, share your projects, your game projects. Even if you're using, I mean, Blender, Unity, Unreal, don't worry, feel free to join and start talking there, because I would love to see what you're doing as well. Okay, so all right, let's jump to the content, to the subject of this video, that is UI. And I'm not talking about the editor, because many people, let me ask you that is watching this video, what do you want in your engine if you had to make a game engine? This is my game engine that you're seeing right now. Let me walk real quick here. This is my engine. If you had to create a game engine, what kind of stuff you'd like to add? I mean, this game engine right now, it does have like global illumination, global screen space reflection, screen space image occlusion, decals. This is a decal, mesh loading, physical based rendering is hard. It's hard to see here because I'm doing cartoon, but it does have armature scanning, many stuff, a lot of stuff, and a lot of new stuff that I did not show here on this channel. For example, right now my materials do have wide shader, so I can apply wide shader and everything else. And this is a new update, by the way. But what kind of stuff you don't think? I mean, 99 of the people don't think. Of course, we have exceptions, from some people that will think on that, but 99 of people that I talk don't think about. And I'm talking about UI. I'm not talking about the editor. This thing that you're seeing here, the whole, I mean, Windows system that I can tab stuff. I can, I mean, select an entity here. Let me select the player real quick, can select the player, can move the player around, can open here the editor to edit everything. I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about UI in the terms of the editor, the game engine editor that many people think, because the UI editor is something that people used to think a lot when, oh my god, I want to create my own Unity and I want to have this badass stuff and so on. I want to create my own Blender. I want to have all the UI and the editor. Many people think about that, but I'm talking about the in-game UI. It took me 4 years. I'm talking about that because it took me 4 years to figure out how hard it will be to have an actual UI. Because, well, this is my game engine, of course, but what if I want to add a button in the middle here? Or what if I want to add like an interface for my bag, because I'm creating an RPG and I want my characters to have items and store those items on slots inside a bag. What if I want to have that? I mean, let me open Google real quick here, and I mean, RPG inventory. What if I want that? Many people, most of the people don't think about how hard it is, and many people think when it comes to UI, used to say, oh, that's not hard. Come on, Guilherme, you're making that thing looks more complicated than it actually is, because, well, UI is basically you get a quad, you render a quad in OpenGL, and then you put a texture on it. So you have a quad with a texture. No, so far so good. For the text rendering, well, it's almost the same thing, because a text is nothing but a bunch of quads with the glyph that we call the character a glyph inside the quad as a texture. Very simple. There's nothing hard. There's nothing fancy. Well, that's not true. Because I will show you what I'm doing here on my UI. Okay, so I will walk through here, and I do have some elements, but I will delete them. And I hope it doesn't crash the engine. Okay, let's say that I want to add an element right on top of this stuff. I can add here, and this is, by the way, me showing off the stuff. I'm not showing off, but I'm explaining what is going on behind the scenes. So I do have the element, an UI element. It's not visible here because right now in the engine, the way it works, I need to go to the UI element. It's wrong here. It's UI canvas, and I need to define a styling that is a color. So let me create a new style real quick, like style 1. And boom, I do have a quad. Very simple, and many people used to say, oh, this is 50% of what you need. Now you just need like the textures, and you need rendering, you need text rendering, and you're done. Well, not exactly, but let me keep doing here. I can change the color of the quad, by the way, and I can add a texture. Let me go to the texture tab, and let's say that I want to add this normal map as the quad. I can add it. Okay, so far so good. So this is the UI. So this is a quad on top of the actual scene. Very simple. But why this is not simple? The first thing, and I will showcase everything else in the engine, but I think it's gonna be better if I explain you first what is going on here behind. And the first thing that you need to understand is that this, you may have not noticed it yet, but this is basically a 2D game engine inside my 3D game engine, because I had to do everything again. I had to do asset handling, because the way you handle assets in 2D is kind of different than you handle in 3D, because 3D assets involves 3D mesh, involves a bunch of textures and materials and so on and shaders, but a 2D assets, it's basically a quad, so you don't even need to store a quad, because a quad is always a quad, and a texture 99% of the time. Here is basically that. I do have other configurations, like a base color, and I can define the alpha color. And by the way, this is a bonus that I'm not gonna show you that, but no, I'll show you because this is amazing. I can, in my engine, blur the background from my UI. So you see, the background is actually blurred, and I can control that. This is amazing, but the way you handle the assets for the UI is completely different. So I had to rewrite everything, and the way you handle those assets are different as well, because, well, when it comes to 3D rendering, what is important is, well, let's talk about culling. Let's talk about, oh my god, this object is behind that rock, so I don't need to render that. Or even let's talk about how I will multiply all the matrices involved in my object, in my camera to give the right output. Let's talk about geometry shaders and so on. But in 2D, it doesn't make sense. I don't need to care a lot about matrices, because, well, of course I can care about it, but to create a basic UI? I don't. For example, this game, my game engine do not use matrices for 3D at all. I'm not using any matrices here. I'm rendering stuff directly. It's very different. And the way you want to sort the stuff, you want to have a hierarchy, you want to have an order, you want to be able to say, okay, this object, this element, this UI element, let me open here Google real quick. So I do have an inventory. Let me open this, open in a new tab. I do have here a Google image, but I have this book, and I need to be able to say to the engine that I want this book to be rendered on top of this slot that needs to be rendered on top of this quad here in the back. So I need to be able to control the order. So everything is very different. And there is one thing that is so complicated and so hard to figure out and to master, that is anchoring. Let me type that because that's very important. You can't skip that. Anchoring. This thing is something that, I've been talking to many people during these 4 years that I'm studying. 4 years that I'm studying about game engine development, and no one, and I'm saying no one, nobody talked to me about anchoring before. Guilherme, what is anchoring? And by the way, what is anchoring? What is that? I'll explain the other topic later. So I'm here with Unity open. I do have Unity here just to showcase that to you. And let's say I want to make a 2D UI in Unity. So the way I do it in Unity is I select 2D here, and then I create inside my scene itself an UI canvas, so I can work. And now this is my screen, and I can work inside the screen, of course. So I can right click here and add an UI button. Okay, this is a button. Very simple, very simple. But the question is, let's say that I want to put this button right here in the bottom right, I'm sorry, of the screen. Let's say that this is, let's forget the fact that this is a button, and let's consider that this is a minimap, a GTA minimap. Okay, and I want to place that in the bottom right of the screen. Okay, very good. I placed the quad here, no problem at all. I can put it, I can play, create my game, I'm happy, I'm good to go. But, well, what if you release your game? Let's say that you release your game, you put it on Steam, and many people from everywhere in the world, people from Brazil, from United States, from Europe, from Africa, Australia, from everywhere starts playing your game. Do you expect that everybody have the same monitor resolution as you have? Or even the same aspect ratio? You don't. People will have square monitor. Let me Google that. People will have square monitor. Some people, you have old monitors with a very low and bad resolution. So the resolution, the aspect, take a look at that. This is a square monitor. I never saw that in my life. No, not everybody have the same monitor size. So, but well, you place it your stuff here in Unity in the bottom right. But what is bottom right? And take a look at that. When we are talking about 3D rendering, the only thing that you need to do is to fix the aspect ratio. So, oh my God, this monitor is wider. No, so far so good. I can literally make my camera see more on the sides in 3D, and it's all good. You do not need to worry about that. But when it comes to UI, what do you mean by stretch the stuff? Do you want to stretch your texture? So I want to have like this button. Let me open that on Paint real quick, because I think it's going to be good for you to learn. So this is Paint. Do you want to do that if someone have a squared button, a square monitor? No, you don't. Take a look at the text. It's hard to see here, but the text is stretched, and everything else will be stretched. It will gonna be ugly as fuck. So what you want is, you don't want to stretch the entire thing. You want to stretch the screen, of course, because the other people have a square monitor for a reason, and of course this also applied by for ultra wide monitor. It's way wider than yours, okay? But you wanna still have that area covered, but you wanna drag your stuff, you want to drag your button to the left or to the right according to that. And that's why we have anchoring. So in Unity, the way you do that is selecting here the anchoring, and I can anchor that element to the bottom right of the screen. There's something to do with the Ctrl and Shift as well, so you can anchor the scale and so on. And if you do that, if you resize the canvas itself, I don't think I will be able to resize the canvas. I'm not a Unity expert, so I don't think so. I don't think that's gonna happen. But if you resize the canvas, this button will actually follow the bottom right of the screen. And this is something very important, and try to implement that in a easy way. I'm sorry. It's not trivial, it's not hard, because, well, you're not only talking about the screen itself, because what if you want a specific element of your screen? So this is not a button. Let's say that now this is an interface, an inventory, as we talked earlier on, okay? So you have an inventory, just like that. Like that. I don't know. I'm just showing you some random examples here, okay? But if your player do have an ultra wide monitor, well, why force the player to see a small inventory? You can make the inventory wider as well. We can do that. But the items inside the inventory, you can't stretch the items. So you need to keep the anchoring correct as well. So I'm talking about the recursive stuff. I'm talking about an UI element handling the anchoring to its parent UI element, not only to the screen. So this is not trivial. It took me days to make it work, and I will show you guys right now what I did. So if you're creating a game engine, I wanted to explain everything, because that's very important, and I don't see no one talking about UI, talking about 2D UI for games, okay? And I'd like to discuss a little bit more about that. And by the way, this is very important, and I think I should even timestamp this video because of this answer, this specific answer, because I'm pretty sure that some people, you go to the comments and you ask me, why not use IMGUI as a solution? Because, well, I'm already using IMGUI. If you see, this is all IMGUI I'm using. It's an amazing library that allows you to create a user interface. Well, when I started and I was hating UI, I wanted to use IMGUI. But the problem is that IMGUI, at least in my opinion, I'm pretty sure that someone somewhere in the world used IMGUI as an in-game interface, and had made an amazing job. But for me, IMGUI is great for debug UI, for this thing that you're seeing right now. It's more like a software UI. It's more something that you expect when you open Google Chrome here to navigate in the internet. When you open, your file explorer in Windows and want to have those tabs. In my opinion, IMGUI is perfect for that. It's perfect for this thing here, for the hierarchy, for the inspection, asset inspection, and so on. This is amazing. But for an actual in-game stuff, for something that you want to make cute, you want to make pretty, I don't think IMGUI would be easy, at least for me. Okay, this is very personal, but I'd like to be a little bit more free to do my stuff. That's why I decided to write my own in-game UI stuff solution, so I can have completely control of everything that is going on. So that's why I'm not using IMGUI. Okay. All right. Once I said that, let me show you a little bit of my UI. But one last thing, people may ask what I'm using for font and text handling. By the way, I did not show it to you, the font handling here yet. I will show in a few seconds. But I'm using Font Stash. It's an amazing library. It's no longer maintained, but, well, it worked for me just fine. So I'm using this library for for font handling. It uses STB true type as well, so that's great. And well, it's a very easy library. It's a very easy and straightforward library to use and handle the text handling for you. Okay. And by the way, I was looking for a solution that handles anchoring and that kind of stuff that I was talking about the whole video, but I wasn't able to find something good enough and free, because I do have scale form, Autodesk scale form. It's not used a lot anymore, but well, it's a solution. And I do have, I forgot the name of the other, I do have another solution that I found, but it's not free, and the pricing, well, that's not exactly a problem, but the pricing and the license of that other solution, not Scaleform, the other solution, was expecting you to use it in a game, not in a game engine that you'd like to share with people and many people will use it, okay? So that's why I'm creating my own stuff. But I wasn't able to find anything free and good enough for that. So if you know something, leave in the comment, or even better, join the Discord server and leave there, because let's talk about it. It's important, and I did not find anything good. Okay, so let's try something good using my UI. Okay, first of all, let me delete this, and here in the left, I do have the UI canvas area. This is almost the same as my scene graph here. So I can have my scene graph is basically where I add my object. So I can select my tent here real quick, and I can move it. I can duplicate it if I want. So here I do have a copy, by the way. Very simple. This is a very old concept, nothing new here. I already showed that in this channel before, and I do have, but what is new here is that I do have the UI canvas that allows me to build my hierarchy of UI elements and sort them to say, oh, this thing is a child of this element, and that element is a parent, anyways. So let's add a new element here. So if I click in this plus button, I do have the element and a text option. I will add more later on, like a button and so on, but for now, just an element. Well, let me add an element. So the element is here, and if I select it, I will be able to add it here in the UI element tab that I forgot to change the name, so it's UI canvas. But believe in me, it's the UI element stuff. I can change the name, so let's say that this is a background. All right, so here we go. And I can, as you guys already saw, I can select an UI style for this. And why do I have styling here? This is important. I will show a little bit later on, but since my UI element have a styling, and this styling can be shared with other UI elements, it will allow me to easily change everything, every scheme, every color scheme in the game very easily by just changing one styling. And if I have like 100 UI elements using the same styling, so far so good, it will work. That's why I do have a styling. And of course I can change the color here of my styling. I can add a texture to it, very simple. And I can change the alpha. Let me remove the texture, and I can change the blurriness of the background. So if I want, let me put this white, for example, and put very blurred. If you see the background, you get blurred, of course. So let's build a small UI here. Let's say that we are creating a role-playing game, and I want to make a UI for the quest system. Well, I can add, let me adjust that, looks good. And I can change the anchoring, the position, because right now it's centered. And by the way, it's stretching. Take a look at that. Everything is stretching. Well, that may be what I want or not. Let's say that I don't want it to stretch. So I can go to scaling, and instead of having the relative scaling, so that's why you have relative X and relative Y, I can have absolute X scaling, for example. So here I will be able to specify in pixels a fixed scale for this element. Let me leave it as is right now. And if I change the scale of my monitor, you will be able to see There's a little bit of some artifacts in the editor, but this is not something that will appear in the game itself, just because of the way the editor works. But take a look at that. The size of this element remains the same, no matter if I'm resizing, because I disable the relative stuff. If I enable it again, it will stretch. Same for the y-axis. So if I disable both, I will have a fixed stuff on top. Okay? Fixed size. And by the way, the size is changing here if I'm reducing the height of the screen, but what is actually happening here is that the screen is getting wider. That's why this stuff is changing the size. It's not actually getting less height, but more width. That's why this thing is happening. Anyways, so I can do it, but let's say that I want to move the object, because I want to talk about the anchoring here, but you need to figure out another thing first. Let's say that I want to change the position. And the position here, I can drag this slider. And let's say that I want to make this UI anchor it to the right of the screen, to the bottom right. Let's say that I want to make that UI, that minimap, okay? Well, I can manually place this stuff here, but it's still not going to work, of course, because this is currently anchoring to the center of the screen. So if I change this stuff, well, here we go. I do have my minimap clip it into the right size of my screen. So let me actually anchor that, the position, to the right of my screen. So I will do that. And by the way, it's not visible anymore, because when I did that, the whole element went to the right. So let me move it back to the left. Here we go. And right now you can already see, oops, it's relative. Let me make it fixed in the Y. You can already see that it's better. Now I can have a fixed pixel position, and it's following that. And let's anchor the vertical stuff as well to the bottom. Let me make it go a little bit up. Let me disable the relative. Actually, we'll enable it again. Boom, here you go. I do have the anchoring working. Take a look at that. Always in the bottom right of the screen. And I can change the anchoring for the scale as well, because I have the position anchoring and I do have the scale anchoring. Right now, if I change the scale of this object, let's say that I want to make it, it's too big, I want to make it smaller. So let's say that I want to make half of the size. Let me reduce it. Take a look at that. It's the scale is changing, but the center, around the center of the element, that may be what I want or not. So I can change the anchoring to change how the scale will change. So if I change the anchoring here to the left, so it will actually change to the left, and to the right, so it will actually change to the right. Take a look at that, because of the anchoring. So of course I will have to adjust the position. So let me change that. Negative 30 and 30 by something like that. That sounds good. 10 maybe. Okay, sounds good. Perfect. And let's change the position here, the scale again. I'll reduce a little bit, everything, and I'll make it not relative. So it will be fixed. And here you go. You do have a minimap. Very simple, and I can change the anchoring every time. So let's add more complexity to this, because it's very simple right now. So let me change the way I'm doing that. I will anchor the position to the center. I'll make it go 0 here in the right. Let me make a side menu here. Very simple. Let me anchor the scaling in the height to the center as well. Make it relative and fit the whole screen maybe. Actually make it, I actually changed it. At this moment I'm playing around. Let me anchor that. Anchor to the bottom. Sounds good. Nope. 0 and 0, and I'll change the scale to be something like that. Something like that. Okay, this is a bottom menu. Okay, it will be accurate here. That's good. So to get wider, if my monitor is wider, and less wide if my monitor is not. Very simple. Let's say that I want to add a title here on the top. So I will add another element here. This element, I will create a new style for it, like title bar. And if you see, this element is actually centered to the screen. Let me make it centered to this background element here. So I will parent this object to this. Boom. Here we go. It's centered here. And the anchoring will actually work just fine. So I'll make it anchor to the top. And I'll make this not be relative in the y-axis, maybe 50. Okay. Okay, sounds good, sounds good. And by the way, if I select my background, I can change this everything here, and this element will follow. I now change the color. Let me put something like that, maybe. Something like that. Sounds good. Okay, so let's add a title here as well. So I will add a text. Very simple here. The text is not appearing right now because I do not have a style. So let me title font. Let me add a style to the text. Let's say that I want the text to be white, and I do not have as well a font style here. I need to create a new one. So title font. I'll create this style. And I need to select, the last thing I want to do is select a font. And this font, by the way, is a TTF font. So I do have lots of some fonts here, TTF, some OTF that is not supported, but TTF is. And let me select that font. Let me say I want to have bold. Oops, that's too much. Maybe an italic. And I had to pause the video because I noticed a bug while I was recording. So I fixed it, I closed the program, I fixed the bug in the text, and I opened it again. So I do have here the text being rendered that I just selected here. And I can, of course, make it a parent of another object. So if I make it a parent of this background, it will appear almost in the middle. You will see why it's not in the middle. In a second, but almost in the middle. The reason why it's not in the middle is that I can change here the anchoring, the alignment of my text. I can align that. Let me open the font stash here because it's easier to explain. I can align here to the right, to the center, to the left, to the top on, middle, baseline, and bottom of my center, and I can do it like so. So I'll make it parent to this element. Let me rename this element to title. Okay, and this text, I will actually change the text here to subscribe to the channel. Very simple text. And I can change the size here, actually the resolution. It's not the size, it's a little bit different. But here we go, I can change it. Let me try to make this thing black. Yeah, it's way better. And let me try to change the font. It's like this one. I can change the spacing, by the way, between the characters. And go back to the bold. Bold is good. Let me select this and increase a little bit the height. And if you see here, since I'm using anchoring, I can change this stuff as I want. And it will work. That's amazing. So, oh, of course, I can blur the text, not the background, the text here. That's good as well. Let's say that I want to make a shadow. I can duplicate this object and make a version of this behind, blur it, very simple. So I can change the alignment again. And by the way, if I move my stuff, it will work. Take a look at that. The entire screen is getting wider. Let me remove the 3D view here real quick. So everything is getting wider, but my text is centered, and that's amazing. Go back my 3D view here, and let's say that I want to add another element. Let me add it. New element. I will parent this to the background, and I will add an element with an image. So let me create a new slot. This is my slot of my inventory. Let me make it fixed. Here we go. 128 maybe. That's enough. I can add this image here. And if I add, let me actually make it fixed as well. 128. Nope. It's not working 100% all the time, as you saw. But most of the time it is working, so I think that's good. Yep, much better. And let's add a texture to it. Scene, textures. Let me add this plant texture. That is an alpha texture. The style, I will add it. Yep, the bug again. I had to fix the bug here. It's still work in progress, so the text is a little bit weird, but I will fix that eventually. I know why this is happening. If I remove actually this thing, and maybe re-add the text, that may work. Nope. Anyways, I know why it's not working, the text anymore. I did some changes before I start recording the video. But anyways, here is the content. Here is the UI editor in action. I can add my stuff, and right now I will be able to make my game. And of course, I can disable the UI every time I want and go back to work on the game itself. That's amazing. Take a look at that. Let me select this decal. Where's my decal? Yeah, that's amazing. So I can do this kind of stuff, and I'm very happy with the results. So UI is something hard. In my mind, it was something that I would finish in like, I don't know, 3 minutes or a day or two. I don't know, very, very fast, but it's not the case. It was not the case, definitely. This is way harder than I anticipated. So I really wish that with this video, you learned something new, and luckily you will not make the same mistake that I did and to think that UI is something easy, something that you will do in like 5 minutes very quick, because it's not. It's something hard that you need to put some effort on it if you want to make it properly, if you want to make it right. Okay, and by the way, I'm talking about Blender. I'm not talking about Blender, but I'm showing Blender icon. This is a fun fact, because Blender game engine, that is the game engine that I'm using for the past 10 years, do not have any kind of UI elements. So I need to do UI in 3D. It's a nightmare, but oh, it's an option. If you don't want to add UI, just allow overlay scenes, and that will work. Okay, but anyways, that's what I had for you today. I hope you enjoyed. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, and if you're not on my Discord, consider join it as well, because it's gonna be amazing. Okay, so my name is Guilherme, and I see you in the next video.